What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my number 24 power rank team for the 2021 NFL season, and that is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team that I absolutely love. They're young, full of potential, set for the future, but there's just still a fair amount wrong with the team, so we'll jump into that day. Don't forget to subscribe, though, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Starting off, once again, using our LEDs, so we're going down here. The receiving room. I really like this receiving room. You know, you've got Jamar Chase probably coming in as your number one. Now, I'm just going to say right off the bat, I think Jamar Chase was the wrong pick. I think Penei Sewell should have definitely been the pick, but regardless, Jamar Chase is who they took, and he does upgrade the receiving room a whole bunch. I mean, Jamar Chase is a fantastic receiver. Now, once again, I don't think he's going to be like anything generational or anything, unlike Penei Sewell, I think will. But Jamar Chase still has a chance to be one of the premier receivers in the league, so he's great to have. T. Higgins is probably your number two, who had a fantastic rookie season, if I'm correct, led all rookies in receiving yards last year, so he looks to have a super bright future. Tyler Boyd is your number three, is a fantastic number three. He's probably the best slot receiver in the NFL, so that's fantastic to have. And then you have a great number four as well with Auden Tate, who is also pretty good. Beyond those guys, there's not a ton of depth. Trent Taylor is okay, you know, as your fifth or whatever. But like these top four, though, this is a very, very good top four. And honestly, it challenges some of the other teams in the league, like the Cowboys, the Broncos, the Buccaneers, for best receiving core in the league. I don't think it's quite better than the Buccaneers, because, I mean, theirs is fantastic, but it's probably like number two or number three. It's really good. So this receiving room, it's got to get an A here. I mean, it's a fantastic receiving room to have. And these guys are still young. Keep that in mind. I mean, I think Tyler Boyd's like 27, but I mean, T. Higgins is like 23 and Jamar Chase is like 21. So this is a fantastic room. The offensive line. So starting off with left tackle, I think that they're probably going to be starting Riley Reiff at left tackle and have Jonah Williams over at right tackle. Regardless, well, we're just going to go off that. So Riley Reiff over here instead of Williams, with Hakeem Adeniji as his backup is it's an okay room. I love Hakeem as a backup, but I do not like Riley Reiff as the starter. Once again, I think Penei Sewell should have been the pick here. You know, even without Jamar Chase, that's still a really good receiving core. And with Penei Sewell, you get a potentially generational prospect at tackle that would have slotted right in here at left tackle really easily. Riley Reiff would be your backup at that point, and this guy would be a third. You would have an amazing room there. But with Riley Reiff starting, and a pretty solid starter, but I wouldn't even consider Riley Reiff solid anymore as a starter. It's gonna get a D+ for me. I do love Hakeem as a backup, the youth there, but Riley Reiff as your starter when he could have had Penei Sewell, I'm just not a fan of. Left guard, again, I feel like they'll be starting Jackson Carman over Michael Jordan, but regardless of who they start, either one is not going to make an impact right away. Jackson Carman was one of those guys that I was pretty confident would switch over to guard, and Our Lads has him as a guard here as well. He's got youth and upside, obviously, you know, protected really nicely there for Trevor Lawrence for a few years, but I definitely don't think he's a year one type impact guy. And Michael Jordan in himself should not really be a starter. So either way, you're not really in the best situation here because this guy I don't see starting that well, and this guy should not be a starter. So this is going to be a D here for me. Again, Carman young, I like the youth, and a ton of potential, but after that, I mean, there's not much there. Center, Trey Hopkins is a pretty decent center. He's like right on the edge of solid for me. Billy Price as a backup is nice. And then I like the pick of Trey Hill. Pretty versatile guy. He can play really guard too if you'd want him to. But he is nice youth to have here. Overall, I mean, you have a near solid starter, a pretty solid backup, and a great youth depth player over here. This room is going to get a C+. There's no one really even, again, solid here, but this is really good depth and some nice youth as well. So C+ there. No, not C+. Yeah, C+ there for the center position. Right guard, Quinton Spain. He has definitely declined the last couple years compared to like what he was with the Bills before that. But he is still a serviceable starter. I wouldn't consider him solid. He's serviceable. And then Xavier Suafilo, I think that's how you say his last name. Yeah, he's also a solid backup. There's a lot of solid depth on this offensive line is really what it is. There's a lot of great depth. If these guys were depth pieces, they'd be some of the best in the NFL, but they're starters, which is the issue. Penei Sewell would have made this so much better. I keep saying it, but it's true. So with the right guard, once again, you have guys who would be really good depth, but just not someone that you're wanting to really start at the end of the day. So it's going to be the same case. It's going to be a C, because I do like Quinton Spain a bit better than like Michael Jordan, for example. Yeah, it's going to be a C here. Decent backup, someone who shouldn't be starting, but he is serviceable at least. And then right tackle, this is where I imagine Jonah Williams would be playing. Behind him, you have Deontay Smith, Fred Johnson, and Isaiah Prince. I mean, you could move one of these guys over to the left side if you wanted. This is a very, very young and depthy room. Does that make it good? Well, I mean, Jonah Williams is a guy that I've never been as high on as a lot of other people. I don't think he has that, like, top-level, I don't think he has that top-level, like, potential like a lot of people think he does. Something I do like about this is I love the idea of Deontay Smith kind of developing and then starting him eventually at right tackle, move Williams over to left tackle again once Riley Reiff is up, because this is just a one-year contract. So Deontay Smith, I like the idea of like developing him. I think he could be a starter someday. Fred Johnson and Isaiah Prince as backups is really nice depth to have there. So overall, just because I love the potential here with Deontay Smith, the Jonah Williams is at least serviceable, but I suppose does still have upside even if I don't see it. And just again, great depth here. This is going to be a C+ for me. Again, there's no one even solid here, but I do love the potential and the depth especially. So overall, this offensive line, I keep saying it, but Penei Sewell should have been the pick. I mean, at this point, if you have Penei Sewell, you have him probably starting at left tackle. You have Jonah Williams over at right tackle. Riley Reiff is a backup. This guy's a backup. I think that was the correct pick. Receiving core is great now, but the offensive line is going to struggle, and every quarterback to some degree needs an offensive line unless you're super, super mobile. And Joe Burrow is not exactly super, super mobile. So I'm concerned for Joe Burrow, to be honest. I hope he stays healthy, but it's going to be hard, and the rest of the offense is going to suffer. It's a big reason why I didn't like the Raiders and the Steelers. You'll see them later. They just don't have an offensive line, and an offensive line is maybe, besides quarterback, the biggest part of an offense. So the fact that the Bengals have just a pretty decent one across the board here, it's not good for them. Now we move on to the tight ends. Starting, I'd imagine, is probably going to be CJ Uzomah. I think that's how you say his last name. Right now, he's fine enough. The Bengals really don't care about the tight end position all that much. You have Drew Sample as a backup, which is whatever. Now, one guy I do want to talk about here is two guys, actually. Pro Wells, first off, is a fine enough guy. I think he holds a bit of potential. Really, the guy I want to talk about is Thaddeus Moss. I really liked this guy coming out of LSU. I wasn't expecting him to be his father or anything, but I think he has a lot of potential. He's got a great receiving upside to his game. So I think this is one of my breakout candidates for this year. He didn't play in his rookie year last year because he got hurt for Washington. So this is one of my breakout candidates this year. The fact that they just don't have a tight end on the team, I think could very well lead to Thaddeus Moss being the number one by the end of the year. So that's just kind of something to talk about. But this tight end room, I don't think there's even really anyone serviceable right now. It's got some nice depth. Cheyenne O'Grady even is nice young depth. So it's a very deep room, but there's not even really anyone here who's serviceable here. So it's going to get a C- from me, but I do really like the depth. This is one of the more better depth tight end rooms in the NFL. Quarterback, Joe Burrow, obviously starting, looks to be the future of this team. A lot of people say that, Justin Herbert should have been the pick over him, and I disagree. If Joe Burrow would have not been hurt and kept on that same pace, he would have won Rookie of the Year. He would have had better stats than Justin Herbert if he stayed healthy. Now, that's really the concern right now is, he's rehabbing fine right now, apparently, but that injury is still nothing to just kind of shake off. And you didn't upgrade the offensive line this offseason. I don't view Riley Reiff as that much of an upgrade. You got a few young pieces, but I don't think they're going to be anything like special, and especially not right away. So, it's just, I love Joe Burrow. I think he's the future of the Bengals, but I'm really concerned about his health and his well-being on this team, because I don't understand why you would pass up on a near generational tackle prospect for a pretty good receiver. Now, obviously, it's because Joe Burrow wanted him, the LSU connection, but I just don't think that's the right pick. So, we'll see, but I do love Joe Burrow. He's a fantastic talent. It's just, will he stay healthy with this offensive line? And then Brandon Allen, Kyle Shermer behind him. I mean, two whatever backups. Brandon Allen is not good, and Kyle Shermer is not good, so you have a really good talent here, but can he stay healthy? And two bad backups. So this is going to be a C+ for me right now. I don't think Joe Burrow's quite on that level yet to make this worth a B or anything, but he does have a very bright future ahead of him if he stays healthy. And then running back, Joe Mixon. I'm just going to make this clear right away. I'm not a fan of Joe Mixon. I've never been a fan of Joe Mixon. I'm not quite sure why everybody loves him so much. Like, yeah, he puts up some decent numbers, but I just don't see what everybody sees with him. I don't think he's bad. That's the thing with a lot of these guys. Just because I don't like them as much as other people doesn't mean I think they're bad. I still think he's a good running back. I just don't think he's like this top 10 guy that a lot of people thinks he is. So that kind of sets the precedent for this running back room. Samaje Perine is a really nice power back to have as your number 2. And then you picked up Chris Evans and Puka Williams through the draft. Two guys that are younger, raw, but have a ton of potential. I mean, I still do like this running back room a lot. I mean, even if I'm not that big a fan of Joe Mixon, he is still a good running back. You have a really nice power back behind him. Two great young players here. So this is going to be a B for me. It's a very solid room. I think Joe Mixon plays better a lot of the time because, this team, I think the team really knows when to run is the main thing, but also, just there's nice depth behind him, so he's able to rest when he is, and they don't have to worry about it too much if he does get hurt. So I like the room overall. It's going to be a B for me, but I'm not that big a fan of Joe Mixon. Sorry, not sorry. So the offense overall, it's good. There are a ton of young playmakers everywhere. It's just, I think the offensive line is going to hold him back. It will. And, we'll get to coaching and everything later, but that could be a piece too. But the offensive line, it's going to hurt them. Moving on to the defense, and this is another big reason why I don't think the team, I want to put the team higher than 24, because they have that type of talent and youth, but the defense is a big reason why I can't. You have Sam Hubbard starting at left end, who is whatever. I don't think he should be starting. Cam Sample, I wasn't a big fan of him coming out of college, so him being your backup here, I'm also not a big fan of. Really no one behind those two. So this left end room, it's pretty bad, so I'm going to give it a D-. I don't think Sam Hubbard is bad enough to earn an F, and at least Cam Sample does hold potential. But it's going to be a D- because this is one of those rooms where neither one of these guys should be starting right now, and Sam Hubbard is not that horrible. Again, it's not an F, but it's a D- for me. The defensive tackle room, DJ Reader headlining it. He wasn't what I was hoping last year for the Bengals. He wasn't bad, but with the money he got and just what he showed in Houston, I was expecting a bit more from him. So hopefully he shows that this year. His number 2, Larry Ogunjobi, was a nice pickup from the Browns, especially since letting Geno Atkins go, who was washed, but still nice to get a replacement for him. Obviously, I think Ogunjobi is a little bit better than Atkins at this time in his career. Tyler Shelvin, big body dude out of LSU. Apparently this team just likes their LSU people. Big bodied guy, great run stuffer, lots of potential there. He's never going to be a top 10 guy, but he can be a top 20 elite run stuffer. So that's great to have his depth there. And then Mike Daniels, the GOAT. Do we even need to talk about this man? He should be starting for these Bengals. Mike Daniels, just the GOAT. But with Shelvin, Ogunjobi, and Reader, this does make up a pretty solid defensive tackle room overall. If DJ Reader can kind of show me more of his Houston form, Ogunjobi plays well as a 2, and Tyler Shelvin shows that potential, this can go up a lot. But for right now, it's going to be a B-. But this is a very solid room. And then right end, Trey Hendrickson is an interesting player because he's a one-year wonder. so far. Like, he had a great year last year with the Saints, but you have to remember that they had an insane defensive line last year. Cameron Jordan, David Onyemata, Malcolm Brown, Trey Hendrickson. There's guys I can't even think of right now. And he played great, but I feel like mainly Trey Hendrickson really just ate off of others' production. He's kind of like a lesser good Bud Dupree, not in play styles, but just the way that they feast when there's other talent around them. I've said this with a few players, and people kind of get confused by it. It's the same comparison with Kyle Trask to me. He excels when there's great talent around him, but he's not going to do anything for you by himself. Now, take that as you will, because it's kind of up to you on how good this pass rush is. To me, this pass rush is not all that good. If you're just basing it off of last year, Trey Hendrickson probably is the best pass rusher on this team. And if you make Trey Hendrickson the best pass rusher on the team, he's not the best pass rusher on the team, if that makes sense. So with Trey Hendrickson, they gave him a gigantic contract. I just kind of think it's going to be one of those cases where he had one great year, and then they realize he's not the number one on any team, and he's going to unfortunately flop for them. So I don't really like the pickup of Trey Hendrickson all that much. Khalid Kareem, I do like as a backup to him, but like overall, it's just, I don't think Hendrickson's going to do well there, especially for the contract they gave him. Kareem is a decent backup, but that room, it's going to earn you a D+ for right now. I'm just not a big believer in Hendrickson, and Kareem shouldn't be starting. So, and then you kind of have this little specialist room because Joseph Ossai is a pretty versatile guy, as is Wyatt Hubert. Maybe it's Hubbard. I don't know. But either way, like, these guys can really play anywhere along the defensive line. Obviously, you're going to start them much more at, like, that defensive end role. Joseph Ossai is a guy that's shown he can play hand in the dirt and standing up. Now, I wasn't a big fan of this pickup. I did like Joseph Ossai overall, but I don't think the Bengals are the best fit in the world for him. I just think the way they run their defense is not good for him. So that's, they have him listed a kind of different position here because they do need to use him a little bit differently than these other guys if they want to get the most out of him. He holds up a ton of potential, and he is a very talented guy. He's just super, super raw. So who knows? Maybe we haven't seen the most from him yet. Maybe he actually is like an elite edge setter, which would be great for these Bengals. If he does end up being that, that's great scouting on their part. But for right now, we really don't know if he is. So overall, I didn't like the pickup that much. And then Wyatt Hubert is kind of same case. He's just not as good as Joseph Ossai. So, I don't see him as a guy that could be like a surprise, like, oh, he's actually a good edge setter, because it's mainly what these guys like to do, which kind of confuses me a bit more with the Trey Hendrickson pickup, because he's not an edge setter. He is a try and go get it sack kind of guy if other people are being focused on. So, overall, I like Ossai and Hubert. It's just really how are they going to be used in Cincy? That's really going to depend on their careers there. So I'm going to give this room here a C for right now because it can really go either way, but both of them still have a ton of potential in them. So that's a C right there. The linebacking room as a whole, it's a pretty nice room. There's really no one to talk about beyond the first three. Akeem Davis-Gaither is a pretty solid guy. Jermaine Pratt is pretty good as well. Not good. He's also pretty solid. Him and Davis-Gaither are just they're solid guys, maybe teetering on the edge of not solid. But Logan Wilson was a pickup that I did like last year, right? It was last year. Maybe it was 2018, but or was it 2019? Maybe, I don't know. Regardless, he was a pickup that I always liked. I think he fits this Bengals defense really well, and so I like him the most out of these linebackers. But overall, it's just a pretty solid, maybe not solid room. Again, there's really no one to talk about. Marcus Bailey is a fine enough backup, but overall, this room is going to get you a C as well. It could go either way. These three guys could ball out. These three guys could flop this year, so we'll have to see. But for right now, it's going to be a C. Cornerback. This is a really nice cornerback room, except for the fact that there's just not a number one. Your number one probably is going to be Chidobe Awuzie, and I was not a big fan of him last year with the Cowboys. I had big expectations for him to be the number one, and he just did not live up to those expectations. They gave him a pretty big contract, so we'll see. For some reason, teams like giving Cowboys corners big contracts when I don't feel like they deserve it. I'm not a big fan of Awuzie, and I'm not a big fan of Byron Jones. But he's your number one here. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, he just, again, I don't think he played like a number one. So that's a little concerning. But the depth beyond like their number one is really what I love about this room. I mean, your number two is probably Trey Waynes, who is a pretty solid nickelback, but he's not going to be your starting nickelback. I feel like he'll probably be their number two outside corner, but he's a solid enough guy. Your starting, nickel, your starting dime, your starting slot is going to be Mike Hilton, who is one of the best, if not the best, slot corners in the NFL. I did really like that pickup. In fact, he's probably better than Awuzie and Wayne. Well, no, he's not probably. He is better than Awuzie and Waynes. It's just he's really much more of a slot corner, so I'm not sure how much you really want to try and test and put him at outside corner. But as your slot, I mean, that is a great guy to have there. Darius Phillips is a guy that I hadn't heard about that much, but Bengals fans really love him, and he has a fair amount of upside. I don't think he'll ever be like, an elite player in the NFL, but he has the potential to be like a decent starter on the outside for them one day. And then Eli Apple, like, obviously has been a waste of a draft pick ever since he was taken, but like is still fine enough to have as a depth piece there. I'm not going to talk about Ricardo Allen because he's much more of a safety to me, but this is like a really, really deep, solid cornerback room, but it's the two starting outside guys that I just kind of worry about. Trey Waynes and Awuzie, I don't view them as starters, so having them as your starters is going to hurt, and it's going to be even worse when the fact that your pass rush is not the best in the world. I mean, Sam Hubbard, Reader, Ogunjobi, and Hendrickson, none of those guys really create good pass rush. I mean, at that point, you're really, really, really relying on Osai if you use him correctly to get pass rush for you. Because, bad pass rush will make any corner's job hard. So you take these below average corners with a below average pass rush, it's not going to be very pretty. It's a very deep and good room. And again, I love Mike Hilton as a slot, but it's just the rest. It's deep, but it's not good. It's not like a starter ready room. So for that, it's going to get a C+, but like, who knows? Maybe they ball out. Maybe Awuzie does play a lot better. Maybe Waynes proves himself as a 2, but for right now, it's a deep but not starting good room. But I love Mike Hilton. And then free safety, you have, Jesse Bates, who obviously played just fantastic last year. Now, I do want to see another year of at least similar production. I'm never quick to jump the gun on like 1 year breakout guys. If he does reproduce, that's the worst. If he does play well again, like even half of what he did, then yeah, he is a fantastic safety, obviously, but he's not really ever shown signs of like this type of play before last year. So I want to see more of it again, but like for right now, obviously last year he was a fantastic safety. I just want to see him do it again. Really know what to talk about beyond there because I think Allen's probably more of a strong safety. So in that case, you have a guy who played fantastic last year, but I want to see him do it again. I'm not sure if he will do it again. He definitely can. I'm not saying he will or won't. It's just there's a chance he doesn't. And no depth behind him. It's going to get you a B for right now, but if he does play again, I mean, that moves up easily. So, and then strong safety, Von Bell starting for you is fine enough safety. He's no one special or anything. And then Ricardo Allen probably starting behind him. You could start Ricardo Allen over him, I guess, but for right now, we'll just put him behind him. You have a near solid starter and a really solid backup. It's a C+. Von Bell, again, wouldn't even consider him solid in my opinion, and Mike Hilton, not Mike Hilton, Ricardo Allen, he's a really good backup. I think he's probably one of the higher level backup safeties. If you start him, he might be a little bit better than Von Bell, but still, he'd at the very most be a kind of solid guy. So overall, it's going to be, I'll give it a C for this room. And then moving on to, I guess we'll talk about the defense overall here. So yeah, like I said, it's just tough because I do love this team. I love the offense, but the defense is going to be a big issue because, like I said, even the best corners in the world have a tough time when there's no pass rush. And so you take the fact that you have below average corners, a below average safety. I mean, again, if Bates plays well, then obviously that's good. But like you take these below average secondary people and then you give them a below average pass rush, which again, like a lot of these guys are edge setters, and the ones you're hoping to not be, one you're hoping you coach correctly, and one you're hoping wasn't a 1 year wonder that benefit off of others' production. So I'm just concerned about this defense. Like, I think this is ultimately, besides coaching, going to be the thing that holds them back this year. So, and I just talked about it all why. So that's just kind of how I feel about this defense. There's some nice young pieces and stuff. And again, like, there's a chance that these guys play well, but I just don't see it this year. So, and then the special teams, Kevin Huber is your punter, whatever. Austin Seibert is your kicker. Whatever. And your kick returner, you don't really have a clear one, but it would probably be like a Tyler Boyd or, maybe a Puka Williams, maybe, or something like that. But regardless, there's not a clear starter, but there's a few okay options here. Special teams overall is going to get a grade of, we'll give him a C-. Not really the best kicker, not really the best punter, no clear starter at kick returner, so a C- overall. So I do love this team, but there's just a little bit too much wrong with it for me to put it any higher than this. I love the young depth. I love the direction. I do love a lot of it. Like, there's some young, talented guys on this roster, but the offensive line is going to hurt the offense. The defense is going to hurt the team as a whole. I just can't put them any higher than this, although I do think they have a bright future. Let's get over to the schedule. And taking a look at here at their schedule, by the way, sorry, it's kind of bad quality. Again, the best picture I could find. It's, as per normal, a tough schedule, because there is no easy schedules in the NFL anymore. But, the only games here that are really like toss-ups, or potentially even easy games, are like the Bears, the Steelers, the Jaguars, the Lions, and the Raiders. It's a really tough schedule, and who knows? Like, this is a team that truly, like, if everything falls together, if the offensive line plays better than expected, if the defense plays better than expected, this could be a team that legit pushes for the playoffs. But I just think with, like, again, the defense, it's concerning. The offensive line is concerning. And, now that we talk about the coach and the culture, like, I like the culture here. I love the idea of this, like, young team that's just, like, they're building up all these people who know each other, and they're this team together. But the coaching, I don't think Zach Taylor is a good coach. It's just plain and simple as that. He's not a good play caller. He's not a good defensive coach by any means. So I really don't like him as a coach there. I love the culture. I love the players. I love the youth. I love a lot about this team. But, like, I think I've discussed enough at this point why the Bengals are down here at 24. In fact, 24 might honestly be a little generous, just because, as I keep saying, I love the team. And they're a breakout candidate. Like, they're a team that could surprise people, but for right now, I think 24 in itself is being kind of generous. So, but yeah, I am going to have the Bengals here at 24. But that is the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. 23 tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.